And welcome back to my world of stuff. I'm here at Park Cwm Darren, near where I live, up in the valleys in Wales. And I've been here before. I think I've shown you around. I've done a few out and about videos. And I thought I would just come up and do something entirely random for a few minutes. Just off the cuff chat about a couple of little things, as it were. Yeah, it's what day is it? It's Friday the 17th of January. It's been a long time since Christmas and the New Year. January is just dragging its heels, as it always does. I really hate January. There's something about it, no matter what you do, it just seems to drag you down. There's something in the atmosphere. It's that, not just the cold, but it's bleak. And I suppose it's that post-Christmas thing of everything just seems very drab and dour. So I'm always grateful when I've got something to do, because otherwise I'd be filling my days just hanging around, which is what I tend to do a lot of anyway. It's a time really of lie-ins for me. I don't get up too early in this sort of weather, because I tend to stay up quite late anyway. So I tend to sort of catch up the other side. I don't sleep brilliantly. So yeah, it's the winter, and I don't like the winter. It's just, I can't wait for January and February really, but particularly January. There's something really deadening and lifeless about January. So just thought I'd come up and have a little chat really about nothing in particular. A few things that have happened recently, a couple of occurrences in the world of the sort of stuff that I deal with. I was going to do this in the first weekly digest this weekend, but I've actually postponed that for another week. I want to get some bits and pieces ready for that, so hopefully starting out a week this Sunday. But I just want to chat about a few things that have happened this week. We've had the trailer for the new upcoming Daredevil Born Again series released. That's coming out in March. Yeah, it looks very good. I mean, it's very much in the style of the Netflix Daredevil series that ran a few years ago for 3 seasons, I think. Which were, I didn't see all of the last series. Very gritty, very tough. Not exactly the Daredevil that I remember reading from the comics. I like Daredevil. There's something about the character of Daredevil that appeals to me. He's the sort of slightly darker version of Spider-Man, I suppose. This lawyer who's lost his sight but has had his abilities superannuated by the inevitable collision with radioactive material. There was a lot of that about in the 60s. But I quite like the Daredevil stories, and I have read some of the early ones again in the last year or so. And of course, they're very basic, very primitive, very simplistic. And like most superhero comics, as you move on into the 60s and 70s, deeper into the 60s and 70s, they become a little bit more mature. And of course, now comics are very much the domain of the geek. And they're very much graphic novels. And as I've said before, I don't really do modern comics. I sort of, up until about 1980 probably, would be of my interest. So I'm not really into the sort of gritty look. I don't like the art, to be honest. It doesn't have that clean lines and, proper storytelling that you had with the classic artists back in the day. But no, I'm looking forward to seeing the new Daredevil series. I did like Charlie Cox, and I do like Charlie Cox as Matt Murdock in Daredevil. And he clearly has a ball playing the part, and I'm glad that he's had a chance to revisit it now under the banner of the MCU. And it looks much the same as the Netflix series. They haven't compromised because it's on Disney Plus, much in the way that Deadpool didn't compromise last year. Oh boy, did Deadpool not compromise in Deadpool and Wolverine. But it looks gritty, it looks hard, it looks tough, it looks very violent. I'd like to see some more villains rather than just Vincent D'Onofrio's Kingpin, great as he is. I remember that Daredevil had an interesting rogues gallery of villains. Some of them, the early ones, are quite ridiculous, the Owl and the Stilt Man. But there are others like Bullseye. I know we had Bullseye in the original Daredevil film. And I hope that we dig a little deeper to some other villains, because that's one of the things that does slightly frustrate me about the MCU. We get all these films, but we never get a sense of real sort of recurring supervillains. That's one of the things I always liked about the comics. Spider-Man would meet Dr. Octopus or the Green Goblin or Electro, and you'd have this rogues gallery of villains, and it would be fun to see them coming back for a rematch. And I'd like to see a bit more of that in the MCU, but I suppose 30 films down the line, it's a bit late for that really. So yeah, that's coming out in March. Looks pretty good, pretty good. We've had some losses in the past week or so of names from the genre who have passed away. David Lynch passed away, I think, yesterday. the legendary, innovative filmmaker, aged 78. I can't say I'm a big David Lynch fan. I'm aware of his work. The Elephant Man is a terrific film, a really good film. But there are others like Dune, Blue Velvet, the Twin Peaks series that I've not really tried because I felt that they might be a bit impenetrable. I am one who likes a linear narrative. I like a story that makes sense and doesn't make you scratch your head too much, especially as I get older. So a lot of his oeuvre passed me by, particularly Dune, which I think is infamously incomprehensible, which is why the Denis Villeneuve films are so good, because they're not. But I understand and I appreciate his place in the Hollywood pecking order, if you like. The fact that he is extremely well regarded as a bit of a genius behind the camera. And I know that his fans will miss him. I don't know what he's done in recent years, to be honest. But I know he has a pretty formidable body of work that's very influential. So, yeah, he will be missed, I'm sure, by his supporters. From the world of Doctor Who, we lost Christopher Benjamin, who was aged 90. Character actor, a great British character actor who appeared in all sorts of TV shows back in the 1970s and 60s. He was in The Prisoner, The Avengers, a lot of those ITC adventure shows. And of course, for Doctor Who fans, he made 3 appearances in Doctor Who. 1970, he played Sir Keith Gold in Inferno, my favourite ever Doctor Who serial. In 2018, he was in a David Tennant episode, The Unicorn and the Wasp, which is the Agatha Christie episode. But most famously, he played Henry Gordon Jago in 1977's classic Talons of Weng-Chiang, which, if you've seen my top 5 Tom Baker serials, is one of my top 5 Tom Baker serials. Great performance from him. And of course, he created that double act with Trevor Baxter as Professor Lightfoot, the police mortician. And they formed this double act, which went on to a number of audio series for Big Finish, which I've never heard because I don't really do Big Finish stuff. But he was a great actor, very much a sort of a larger-than-life actor, but not a star actor, not somebody who's interested in celebrity, as so many of those great actors weren't. They were just performers, they acted, and that was their job. Great actor, though, he will be sadly missed. I don't think there's much else I want to talk about, really, today. Somebody's just pulled up in a car alongside me. Ain't that typical? Empty car park. Yeah, I just wanted to do a quick hello because there's no other video due now until tomorrow night, Saturday night, which will be my retro review, a new Doctor Who retro review of The Ice Warriors, Patrick Troughton's story from 1967. I had planned to see The Wolfman, the new Lee Whannell horror film. It was fairly high on my radar of films I wanted to see at the beginning of the year, but I have to admit, some of the slightly indifferent reviews have put me off a bit. So where it was initially a immediate must-watch, it's sort of, I'll catch up with it next week, probably. Plus, it's that thing that this time of year I can't really be bothered to do very much, go very far. So it's now a film I will catch up with next week. What I will probably be doing with film reviews from now on, because the film reviews on my channel don't really do incredibly well. You know, if I'm lucky, I get 100, 150 views. But I will probably incorporate a lot of film reviews into the new weekly digest when I eventually get it started. Apart from big films, obviously the big Marvel films and, big key films. Sorry, I'm holding the camera. I will still do full reviews for, but for lesser films, I'll probably just incorporate them into a few lines in a digest. Speaking of which, I did see Getaway last week. This is the new comedy horror film, which is on, I'm going to say Shudder. I think it's on Shudder. I may be wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll put it down here. This is a film I was interested in because it was written by and stars Nick Frost of the Cornetto trilogy, Simon Pegg, Edgar Wright, and so on. I like Nick Frost. He's an interesting looking character, to say the least. He's an interesting personality. And I saw a trailer for this last year and thought, this looks interesting. He co-stars Aisling Bea, the slightly hyperactive Irish comedian, and they play the mother and father of a family. There's a teenage son and daughter. They go to this island called, I think it's called Svarta, a fictional island off Sweden. They go there at a time when the island is holding their annual event to celebrate a quarantine which took place a couple of 100 years ago when the island was sealed off from the mainland because of a plague. But that quarantine caused a festering mistrust for mainlanders, which has continued across the generations, and they go there specifically to become part of this ceremony, ritual, presentation. But things don't quite go according to plan. If you see the trailer, it takes you sort of down Wicker Man territory, which I'm always wary of. Much as I love the Wicker Man, I'm also very wary of films and TV that purport to be the new Wicker Man. But this has shades of that, but then doesn't. It goes off in a different direction. There's a huge sort of twist towards the end, which leads to all the bloodletting that you might have seen part of in the trailer. It's an interesting film. It's quite amusing in places. I don't think it's quite as good as I hoped it would be, but it's quite entertaining. It's a short film, 90 minutes, but it is one of those films which does tend to happen with horror films, that you sort of see them and then months later you have to be reminded that you've seen them because you've forgotten. Not incredibly memorable. And I think the fact that, I suppose it's probably to its credit that it isn't just what you think it is from the trailer, but goes a different place. But I didn't enjoy it as much as I hoped it would. But it is entertaining, and I do like Nick Frost, and there are a few good comedy moments that make it worth your time. Have I watched anything else? I did plan to watch a couple of other films this week, but just haven't got around to it. Yeah, it's a bit weird. I'm not watching a lot of films at the moment. I'm not reading a lot either. Not in the mood for reading, and I do like a good read. And I think it's all part of the January sort of thing, January atmosphere. It flattens my enthusiasm for stuff. So I just wanted to do this little video as an update today, particularly because I'm not doing the first digest this weekend, which I'd hoped to do. The reason I haven't done it is, or the reason I'm not doing it is because I want to make it sort of magazine-y with lots of little sections, and I want little ident breaks and things, and I just haven't got around to doing them yet. I'm certainly anticipating in getting it done the week afterwards. I mean, of course, it always depends on what happens, what news there is, what trailers, what things I've seen. But that's part of the appeal, really, to sort of gather together things that don't really justify an entire video on their own, which is what's called the Weekend Digest. I know it is coming, so bear with. Right, I think that's me done. I'm going to head home now. I've had a bit of fresh air. Haven't actually walked anywhere, just sat in the car. But it's nice to bit of a change of scene for a while. I really can't wait for spring. I really can't. A couple of things coming up on the horizon, though, I will mention. I did mention in my Ace of Wands video about the Ace of Wands event, which is taking place in March in the Quad in Derby. I am now officially going to attend. I booked my train, I booked my accommodation, I have a ticket available. So if any of you watching this video or any of these videos or that video are there, please come up and say hello and have a chat. It'll be nice to make contact with some of you. So that's in Derby, March the 29th, if you fancy a few hours in the company of some classic cult TV. So anyway, that's just a quick update from me, a quick rambling rant. If you're new here and you thought, what's this book doing in a car talking? Nonsense. One of the things I do. Please like and subscribe to the channel. Subscriber numbers have frozen again the last couple of days. So if you are new, please like and subscribe to the channel. It doesn't cost you anything. All you have to do is watch out for the videos and watch the ones you fancy. And if you look back through my history of stuff, there's loads of stuff. Film reviews, TV reviews, film visits, all sorts of bits and bobs. So go back and take a look and see what takes your fancy. Right, I'm away now. I'm going to go home and have a nice cup of coffee. I'll see you soon. Until I do, keep taking the stuff. Hello, it's me again. I just thought I would stop en route on the way home just to show you this landscape, which I find very striking. It is bleak because it's January, but it's very, very Welsh, I suppose. I live in a place called the Rhymney Valley, which is a few miles outside Cardiff. And this is what it is like around here in terms of the topography and the countryside. And this is actually, for Doctor Who fans, where the exterior scenes for Tooth and Claw were filmed in 2005-2006 for the second new Doctor Who series, the first David Tennant series, filling in for the Scottish Highlands. I think the actual scenes were probably over there somewhere, because there's mountains that could sort of pass off, I suppose, as the Highlands, and there's another set of mountains over that way you can't see over that hill. But this is sort of 10-minute drive from where I live, and it's just, today it's bracing, it's nice, there's a bit of a breeze, not cold exactly, but it's still, you can see a bit of traffic in the distance, but it's very quiet and very rural and away from the madness of the city, which is one of the reasons that I moved up here. I just thought I'd show you that, put it in perspective a little bit. But it probably doesn't look like much, but it's quite impressive to see the hills rolling away in the distance, and little villages and things. It's it's very nice, and I do like this time of year when it's like this. A lot of people find it too much to cope with because, as I say, January's bad enough as it is. But I find this, I don't know, it's just oddly refreshing to come up here now and again and just bask in the quietness of it. Anyway, I'll leave you to it now. Goodbye.